fine, yeah. I heard he's out. He posted bond.
That's what I've been told. I came in today and have been assigned to the case, but that's my understanding is that he's posted bond. I don't know if y'all have been at home or seen him around or anything like that. But
we haven't seen him, but I heard he was home.
Well, like I mentioned, I appreciate you coming in. My name's Detective Bond, and you know, understandably, you know, extremely traumatic incident, and so we just want to make sure that we get all the information that we possibly can. We have everything right, so in this case, justice can be served. And if you know, if it becomes too tough, we can take a break or whatever the case is. Just let me know, and we'll do whatever we can. And I'm sorry, I wasn't out there that night, so I just want to get your full name.
Full name is Billy, B-I-L-L-Y, Rodgers, R-O-D as in David, G-E-R-S.
All right. So I guess we'll just start with do you know, as far as when you purchased your dog, do you recall how much y'all paid for it?
He was $500,
Okay.
even. We didn't buy him from a breeder. We bought him from a gentleman that had 2 Vizslas.
Okay.
And his wife was pregnant at the time, so she went into labor, and that's when the dogs connected, and they became pregnant,
Okay.
and that's how he had the litter, and that's how we got Rusty.
Okay. And y'all got Rusty at 9 weeks, you said, or 9 months?
No, it was at 9 weeks.
9 weeks.
He was born September 26th, and we bought him sometime in December that year, 2007. That was right after we got married.
Okay. And how old was Rusty now?
He would have been 5, September 26th.
Okay. All right. And do you recall offhand the name of y'all's vet at Mopac and If you do, fine.
It's a funny name, Dr. Wani. It's at Wells Branch Pet and Bird Clinic. It's right off of Palmer and Mopac. It's right next to Corvette World.
Okay. Wells Branch Pet and Bird Clinic.
Yes, sir.
And a Dr. Wani?
It's like Wani, Wani. It's
Okay.
a weird name. I really don't have the exact spelling.
That's fine. And the other thing we kind of wanted to narrow down or be a little more specific in detail with is this Ying. Some of the information I've seen or have been told is that I guess y'all knew him, or that the dogs had played together, or at least
Had contact.
Right. So that's kind of prior to this, how well did you know?
Sure. So one of my best friends in the neighborhood is Chris Keffer, which lives across the street from Mr. Bing. I met Bing probably several months back. Chris mentioned that he had some shelving that he was trying to get rid of in his garage.
Okay.
So I went to look at it, and that's how I met him. That's when he invited me in his house. I met his dog for the first time. Very cordial, neighborly. We're just friends. We're just getting along. Chris actually had a 4-year-old birthday party for his son, which Bing attended. And my dog was actually at the party at one point. He has met my dog numerous times. And again, I think they had an initial greeting at one point.
Okay.
I don't remember them ever playing in like a backyard together, but I think they met at one point.
Okay.
I think one of the bottom lines is that, Bing knew where I lived. He's met my wife. I've been in his house. I met his, he's met my dog on numerous occasions. And that there was no hesitation when he just shot my dog. There was no warning. you know, I feel threatened, you know, can you please retain, you know, grab
Sure.
your dog. I know I'm kind of jumping to the gun here, but he just, without hesitation, he just shot my dog. While there were 10, 15
Right.
people 10 feet from him.
Okay.
But keep going, I know you've got
No, it's just, I'm just trying to make sure I keep notes and get everything down. So, your best friend is Chris Keffer?
Keffer, K-E-F-F-E-R, yes sir.
And he lives across from Bing?
Yes,
Directly across?
it's, I mean, it's, if it's not just diagonal right there, it's like one house in front of Bing and then there's his house.
Okay.
So he's essentially across the street.
Okay. And again, when did you first meet Bing? About 2 to 3 months ago?
Yeah, this is, it could have been longer than that, but yeah, I mean, we can say 3 months ago. And then 3 weeks ago was Chris's 4-year-old's birthday party,
Okay.
which he was at.
And the circumstances around you meeting him 3 months ago was when there was some shelving, you said?
Yeah, some shelving in his garage. He was
In
looking
Bing's garage?
Right,
Okay.
he was looking to get rid of and sell it, and so he wanted to show it to us to see if we were interested. And I can add to that as well. So, you know, I'm an avid hunter, I'm an avid outdoorsman, and I heard that Bing enjoyed arms and that sort of thing, and so he invited us in. I wanted to see some of his latest guns, and that's when he mentioned he had several, possibly 100, and that he's got 1,000 rounds for each gun in his house.
And so, in the course of y'all talking about guns, he invited you in to look at his collection?
Correct,
Okay.
and he showed me a few handguns, probably 3 to 5. You need a computer.
Yeah. I'm the only one that can read my writing at least half the time.
I'm chicken scratch as well.
So you kind of looked at some guns
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. No problems. Everything seemed
Yeah, no,
friendly guy, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you know that at that point, that first meeting, did you see his dog, or did he have a dog?
Yeah, no,
or?
he's a foster parent for. It's a type of German Shepherd. It's very expensive. I know he mentioned it was upwards of $3,000 to $6,000, and it's trained specifically for the Air Force. So he's kind of raising the dog to become, I don't know what you would call it.
A military working
A military
dog?
working dog.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So I know he's fostered several throughout the years.
Okay. Do you know if is that just through him telling you about that?
Right.
Okay.
Because I asked if it was his, and he said no, he was a foster parent.
Okay. Do you know, was he actually training the dog to do something, or did he simply raise it to a certain age when it would be turned over? It was,
Sure.
What was your?
I got he mentioned some form of training, whether it was obedience or it was probably just the, I mean, obviously just raising the dog to become of age, but he wasn't necessarily specifically military training the dog. I don't
Okay.
think he has that capability or the
Okay.
credentials to do that, but maybe sit, fetch, potty train.
Okay.
That's what I'm assuming.
All right.
Nothing into detail.
Okay. So that first meeting, looked at the shelves, talked about guns. He showed you a few. He made the comment that he had quite a few, or up to 100, or
Yes,
something of that
up to
sort.
100. And I'd also like to point out that his front door was barricaded to where you could not get in his house. And what I mean by that is on the knob, he has a piece of metal that goes up under the knob, and then it comes down to the floor to where if you were trying to come in through the front door, you can't get in.
Okay.
Yeah. And he also mentioned that he conceals 2 handguns on him at all times.
And he mentioned it that day.
Which I thought was a little odd.
Did he say why, or what his concern or fear was from?
I didn't really ask him.
Okay.
So at that point, I mean, obviously, I thought he was a little bizarre at the time.
Sure.
I don't think that's natural to have a barricaded front door and
carry a couple of guns on
Right.
you.
Especially, yeah, exactly.
Did you meet this? Did you see this? I think they're Malinois, but did you see the dog on that first occasion?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. He was very playful. He was a friendly dog. I thought he was cute. He was a beautiful dog. His coloring is amazing.
Did y'all have any discussion about you having a dog, or what type of dog you had, or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was a while back, but I think at that time, he either met my dog previously or we discussed me having a dog at that time. But he was very well aware that I owned a Vizsla Hungarian Pointer, and I'm sure I brought it up. To be honest with you, I can't even remember if he was with me at the time, which I don't think he was the first time I went in his house. But yeah, I mean, he had a dog. I'm a dog lover, so I'm sure we discussed me having a dog.
Okay.
So, we were bonding. We had something in common.
Well, especially because Vizslas are sometimes used as working dogs. We had them at the airport police department as bomb dogs.
Didn't know that.
So, yeah. And anybody in the dog industry would know, the kind of the common breed. Sometimes, labs are used for drugs and bombs, and the Air Force uses a few German Shepherds and Malinois, and so.
I would like to mention that Chris Keffer was with me when I was in his house, when I met Bean that day and we went in his house. So Chris was with me when he showed the shelves in the garage, and then he went inside with me when he showed the guns, and we talked to the dog. Chris's son, the 4-year-old, was actually in the house as well.
And up to this point, was this the first time, had you seen Bing before out and about, or was this the first time actually meeting him, going into his house?
Yeah, first time that it was formal, I would say. First time that it was formal.
And to your knowledge, prior to that, do you walk your dog through the neighborhood or anything?
My wife works at home. She walks him every week. I'll run him. Like if she's gone traveling, I'll run him when I get home.
Okay.
Yeah, and we go to Chris's house often. They have 2 dogs, and we're just close. We have the same interest, and so we bring Russ over 2-3 times a week. And again, he's right in front of Bing's house, so he's got to see us over there, whether it's a vehicle or us walking to and from Chris's house.
And so, prior to the formal meeting, at any point had you been out with Rusty and seen Bing, or y'all stopped or anything? Had he had any contact with your dog, by you running him or anything like that?
Probably just seeing him on the street, probably just waving, saying hello, being a neighborly. Yeah, there was one occasion where his girlfriend was leaving and he was packing her car in the street because she was taking off to go to Fort Hood. And Rusty was with us, Chris, Colton, Chris's son. And we're actually walking back towards my house, and we waved at Bing and told him hello. And
all right. And so, after this first formal meeting, y'all kind of part ways, and then when would be, I guess, the first time that, or was there a first time where you had Rusty and being petted him before, or seen him, right with you, y'all, or that sort of thing?
He would have been at the birthday party.
Okay, the birthday party. And do you know about when that was?
Chris will know the day. This is it was August. It was the beginning of August. August 10th, maybe?
Okay.
Let me look at the calendar.
Yeah, that's fine. And that was, that's Chris's son?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the first encounter when he petted him, I mean, again, within the 3 months. I'm just trying to give you the most accurate information I can. It may have not been the first time he petted Rusty or knew of Rusty at the birthday, but I know that that was a formal meeting and that sort of thing.
Okay, that's fine.
So.
I'm just trying to get a kind of a rough timeline.
Yeah,
and
I'm trying to get you the most accurate information I can. Like I said, I guess I could be off on a few dates. It would have been the 11th, I think, August 11th, which was that Saturday. I don't think it was the first weekend. I think it was the Saturday, the 11th.
And so, I'm assuming you and your wife and Rusty were at Chris's for the birthday party?
Initially, we came without Russ, and then we brought Russ over.
Okay.
But yes.
And what's your wife's name?
Pam Rodgers.
All right, so y'all went to the birthday party and then by yourselves, and then eventually brought Rusty over to the birthday party. And when you got there when you got back with Rusty, was Bing there at that point, or did he come after?
No, I'm pretty sure Bing was there when Russ entered the party.
Okay.
I know he didn't stay to the full extent of the party, but you know, he was eating and, you know, just enjoying himself.
And so what kind of interaction did Bing have with Rusty there at the birthday party, if any?
You know, he may have petted him and greeted him, but that would have been it. I mean,
Okay.
we were just kind of sitting around talking guy talk and, you know, sitting under the shade, to be honest with you,
Okay.
in the backyard.
Did y'all ever have any sort of conversations, being that y'all had a dog and he had a dog and all the, you know, the other stuff about dogs being friendly or aggressive, or any, you know, any sort of thing that may have come up, you know, about the dogs in particular, his or yours?
No, I mean, you know, given that the neighbors were there and the people that were familiar with Russ, there was no need to discuss aggression or if my dog's mean, or Chris has 2 dogs as well, and like I said, we're over there 2-3 days a week letting the dogs play and socialize, and so I mean there was no discussion of, you know, hey, is your dog aggressive or is he gonna attack anybody, or
Okay.
I mean there were 14 kids over there, all under the age of 4, and my dog and Chris's dogs, and everybody's running around, and so.
So no problems there, and that would have been August 11th.
Yes, sir.
Do you recall at any point between we'll say the 3 months ago, the formal meeting, to August 11th, roughly, for the birthday party for Chris's son, was there any contact between you and Bing while you had Rusty with you? You know, whether it's walking up and down the street or running or exercising or anything.
So that greeting when we were walking back to my house,
Okay.
with Colton, and Bing was, you know, talking to his girlfriend or, you know, sending her off, that's probably the last time there was a initial greeting, or, you know, he saw I was with my dog and acknowledged it
Okay.
and said hello, and, you know, we said, hey, is that your girlfriend? And she said yes, and, you know, across the street said it was nice to meet you and that sort of thing. That's probably the last. Like I said, we're not close friends. I never hung out with him, but we were acquaintances and we were neighbors, and so, you know, I never had a barbecue at Bing's house.
Okay.
But I would probably say that was the last time that, you know, he saw that I was with Russ and whatever. So.
Had y'all at any, and that was, and so that would have been when y'all were walking back and his girlfriend was there?
Yeah.
Do you know about how long ago that was?
I mean, it was around, it was either right after Colton's birthday or right before it. I mean, I can't give you a specific date.
So
All these questions are.
Yeah, I apologize. We just want to make sure
I
we
know.
get, you know, everything that.
Because the reason I remember that Russ was with me on that walk is because we went to my neighbor's house across the street, which is Joe Lubisher. He had his fiance at the time outside with her girl and her little girl's best friend, And Russ was with us on the leash, and they were petting him and spraying him with water, and so
Okay.
I know that for a fact, that he was with me during that walk. That would have been the last time. It's either prior to the 11th or right after it.
Okay.
I really don't know. It was around that date.
And so around that August time frame. Now, between now and, or between the August, roughly that time frame, and the other night, had there been any other contact between you and Bing at all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did y'all see him out walking quite a bit with whatever dog he might have at the time? I don't know if it's always been the same dog or if he's traded them off, or...
You know, having a background in the military, I imagine he's pretty regimented, and given how hot it was, he probably walked his dog early and late, and that's why he was walking him so late, because the sun was down and that sort of thing. That's what I'm thinking. But no, I've actually never seen him walk his dog. Yeah, I'm usually in bed by 10 o'clock, 10:30, and so, you know, that's obviously about the time he was walking his dog.
At any point ever, had there been, well, I guess not, I guess a question, because you've never seen him out walking a dog other than this particular night, right? What I was getting to is, at any point were you and Rusty together, and Bing and his dog, you know, that, so maybe they sniffed each other while y'all passed on the sidewalk,
right,
or something?
You know, like, my head's spinning right now. You know, Chris could probably, because I'm with him often, I'm pretty sure the dogs met. And so, I can't give you a date or a scenario right now. Like I said, maybe speak with Chris.
Okay.
I'm kind of overwhelmed right now.
So you're fairly sure the dogs had met before, but just not sure of maybe what the occasion was,
Yeah.
or when that would have been.
Right.
Okay.
And how my wife may have a better memory of it as well.
Now, was Chris, and I have to apologize because I wasn't there that night, but was Chris one of the people that were also with y'all when this incident occurred? Was he there or no?
So, like the shooting?
Right.
So he actually just walked in his door when the shooting occurred.
Okay.
And that's when he came over because of all the screaming and yelling and chaos.
Okay.
He had just left with Colton, which I'm very thankful for because his son wasn't shot. But him and Jackie, his wife, were at my house that night for the barbecue.
Okay, but they actually weren't there to witness the shooting?
No.
Do you know if he provided, Chris, did he provide his information to any of the officers or detectives that were there?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure he did, and he was at the district attorney's office this morning.
Okay. All right. And so, if I can understand this correctly, y'all were having some form of get-together at your house?
Every September 1st, as you know, is dove season, and a buddy of mine who just became board certified as a vet. He's a doctor, but he's also a surgeon now.
Okay.
He just got back from Michigan. He would usually fly in every year. So I had like four or five couples over, and we were actually cooking the harvest that we shot that morning. So with the bacon and cream cheese and all that stuff, and you know, just reminiscing and catching up, since one of them lives in Houston, another one lives in Temple, and so that's what we do every year. We have an annual get together at my house, and that's why everybody was at my house.
And so, was everybody leaving, or were just people starting to trickle out when this?
No, everyone was already packed up and leaving at that point. A few couples were walking out the front door. well, I didn't buy, but my wife and I bought a new car. So we were coming out of the garage showing a few people.
Okay.
So people were exiting my front door, and we were also coming from the garage. And that's when my dog saw Bing and his dog walking down the road. So initially he wanted to meet and greet whoever it was in the road. And that's when, excuse me, Eric was at his car at the time, or he was in the road when he was trying to get my dog away from Bing. And my dog was actually retreating back to the grass because he knew who it was and he was familiar with Bing. And so that's when he unloaded at least 4 shells into my dog, which at that time I was 5 to 10 yards behind my dog in the line of fire trying to get him.
Did Rusty come out of the front door or out of the garage?
Rusty came out of the front door.
Okay.
And because of the shock and how quick everything happened, Eric Sutton, which actually is a professional dog trainer, is the one that witnessed the initial, everything that took place in terms of what Russ did, what Bing's dog did, what Bing did. Eric Sutton is who I would speak with, just because it happened so quick.
From his vantage point, you're saying
he was the closest.
Okay.
He was the closest. My dog actually circled Bing and his dog. I didn't see this, but Eric said they sniffed noses, and at that time they recognized each other, and that's when he was coming back to my yard because he knew who Bing was and his dog. And that's when there was no warning, you know, I feel threatened, I do have a gun, he just shot my dog. And that's, in that point I was trying to get my dog and pull him to safety.
So basically Rusty went out and kind of made a circle, they sniffed noses, and then he was on his way back across the street.
Right.
Now, when Rusty initially, I know y'all were like showing your vehicle and that sort of thing. Did you see Rusty come out?
Yeah, I saw him,
Okay.
and I saw him immediately because I was at basically my garage door, and I saw him when he came across my peripheral vision. I immediately went after him because I saw Bing, and you know he was just excited, so I wanted to go get him, and that's when I was 10 feet away from him. As he was backing up, Bing shot him, and I was right there.
Did when Rusty came out and saw Bing and his dog and was kind of going over there to meet and greet or what have you, did he ever bark?
He did.
Okay.
He barked a few times.
As he was kind of trotting
Mhm.
over there? Okay.
There wasn't any growling. There wasn't any showing of teeth. Like I said, there wasn't any aggressive contact. I guess if you could look like a skirmish, or you know, if they collided or anything, that wasn't the case.
Okay. And so he made the circle and they sniffed, and he was already cut. So all that was pretty quick that he made it out to him. And
Yeah, I mean, this was a couple of seconds.
Just, yeah, like
Yeah.
that. Okay. And
Bing didn't say one word.
never, and that's what I was going to ask. Was there
No,
ever any,
no.
you know, like,
We were
Billy or
no, we were
something?
saying, whoa, look, let us get him. We'll get him. And then he didn't say anything. He just pulled his gun and fired. There, no hesitation, no warning of any kind.
Did you, and I mean, of course, not expecting something like that to occur, did you see if Bing had the gun out before, you know, or did it?
He wasn't walking with the gun. I know what he's got, like a holster
Okay.
that carries 2, and I know one's right on his hip that's right under his shirt
Okay.
because I've seen it.
So he never said anything, and
No.
you were running
No.
toward Rusty.
One word.
Okay.
Not one word.
You're running toward Rusty, and that's when he draws his pistol and just starts shooting.
As he was coming back, yeah.
Okay.
let me say this too, just because, you know, we're getting everything on record. I'm not trying to mislead anybody. I personally didn't see the sniffing, the noses. Basically what I remember, what I witnessed, is when I was going to grab my dog, or I was almost there, is when he was shot twice. But Eric, I talked to his wife today over the phone, and that's the encounter. That's what Eric remembers. Like I said, he was the closest to Bing and the dog at that time, because all of us were going to get my dog, basically.
I mean, in the course of Rusty running, were people yelling like, "Rusty, come back"?
Yeah, we were like, "Russ, come on!" Yeah,
did y'all think he was just going to take off and, you know, kind of get too far away? You know how dogs, when they escape, they want to take off.
Right, and yeah, and he's, you know, he's done this before, where someone comes in the street and he confronts them, but I've always been able to get him and, you know, just bring him back in the house.
Okay. Well,
but he has never gotten out of the house without a leash since we've been in the neighborhood. So this was the first occasion.
so, I mean, you've met him a few times and that sort of thing, but, and I guess he didn't say anything, he just, you know, started shooting. So.
No words. There was not one word from Bing's mouth.
Okay.
That is clear and that is accurate. That's exactly what I witnessed.
So, once Rusty's shot, does he say anything at that point, Bing?
That's a good question. So, basically the first thing that happened is he shot my dog. My dog's bleeding profusely. I mean, literally, he probably died within 30 seconds. And my wife, when this happened, I know she hit the concrete because she heard the gunfire. She went and grabbed my dog and put him on the sidewalk, and she was holding him. And everybody was trying to calm Bing down. You know, put your gun away, please. He basically threatened the crowd at that time. He was waving his gun. You know, "I'll shoot everyone. Do not come any closer to me." This is when Randall, I don't know his last name, I've got his card. He's 2 or 3 neighbors down on my side of the street. He's a firefighter. He was a neutral witness. He came out and he tried to defuse the situation. Told Bing, you know, "Please put down your weapon. You know, let's wait till the cops get here. There's no need for any other violence or shoot with deadly force or any of that nature." And that's when he pointed the gun at Randall and said, I will, you know, shoot you as well." I don't know exact words, terminology that he used, but he pointed the gun at Randall and threatened him as well in regards to his life.
Okay.
So as you can imagine, it was very chaotic. We kind of were on one side of the street telling him, you know, "Please put down your weapon." And we were just all afraid that he was going to shoot everybody.
So I'm trying to get a mind's eye. Basically, y'all were on one curb and he was at the other.
So the shooting actually occurred in the street.
Right. Okay.
Russ was in the middle at the point of the actual impact of the bullet.
Okay.
Bing he went to the sidewalk that was across the street from my house.
Okay.
And that's when everybody's either right on the beginning of the street, or they're on the sidewalk, or they're in my property. And that's when we're yelling at him, you know, "Put down your gun." You know, everybody's kind of frantic at that point. Like I said, there's at least 10 witnesses. The neutral witness, or the gentleman that came from down the street, that was the fireman, he was actually in between us and Bing at the time, in the middle of the street,
Okay.
telling him, "Don't shoot, put your gun away. We don't need any other casualties." I don't know exactly what he said. But yeah, he was constantly waving the gun, threatening everyone that he will shoot to kill. And so I remember there were 4 tags, I don't know what you call them, with the little numbers. Like when you go to Whataburger, they give you a little order number and you put it on your table.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's bullet casings on the street, you know, the cops put those out. I saw 4 of those. Every shot was aimed at my house. You know, my wife was right there in the line of fire. I was in the line of fire. So he could have shot any of us at any time, or ricocheted bullet. So it seemed that there was no control with his shooting, because he had his dog, he was holding with one hand, and it was almost as like he was just waving, uncontrollably shooting, just...
When he was pointing a gun at the group, do you remember specifically anything that he said specifically to the crowd as far as a threat?
No, I can't give you word for word. Okay. I clearly was in shock, and I just couldn't fathom what happened.
When he actually shot, you were running toward Rusty to get him
because he was almost home. He was in the middle of the road. I was going to grab him. And
so at that point, when that happened, did you stop and say anything? Do you recall saying anything to him?
No, I don't even think I said anything to him.
Okay.
Pretty much, my wife came, grabbed him. I don't even know if I pulled him back, but I know my wife pulled him to the sidewalk, and there were three or four people holding my dog, telling him, "Don't shoot again." At that time, I ran to get a phone to call 911. So I went inside momentarily to get my phone to call 911. I was transferred to 2 or 3 different people. It felt like forever before the cops got there. I was in shock. I'm still in shock.
Who you're talking about as far as the fire department employee, they're coming in as well. We've already contacted them for the same thing, and I'll contact them.
Good, because I talked to him last night. I noticed he mentioned that, I think in his my statement was so, I didn't write any detail in it. Just like I said, my brain was overloaded. And I think he even mentioned he didn't put in his statement that he pointed the gun at him and threatened his life. But that was something that he wanted to come in and clarify that today.
Yeah.
Or write another statement, or, you know, to give you guys.
Yeah, Detective Barnett contacted him, and he's supposed to be here sometime around 3 for basically another interview. Because anytime you have a traumatic incident, we like to give it, you know, at least a little time for things to settle down, and I by no means mean get over something, but because you don't think very clearly for the first 24 to 48 hours, and things that occur you don't remember until later. So that's one reason behind doing follow-up interviews, to get those sort of details. And I'm not sure, I know everybody kind of wrote statements, and I'm not sure what Eric did or didn't, but if we need to contact him, we'll definitely do that.
Please, I've got all his contact information. His wife was actually former APD.
Okay. Well, I know phone numbers and stuff, so, and we've got all the statements, but is there anything else?
There is something else. Offhand, I don't remember what it is. Chris went to the district attorney's office this afternoon, and what we'd like to do between now and when he's charged or his trial is put an amendment to the bond or some kind of delay where we would like all of his guns confiscated for the time being. I think the whole neighborhood is a little concerned about their family, their safety. Like I said, he's bragged about having all these weapons. He carries 2 firearms on him at all times. I don't think anybody feels safe. I don't know who these people are. Maybe that's the vet and Trenton. And so I forget what it's called. Chris looked into it today. So is there such thing as a class 3, like a C, like a concealed handgun license, but like a more sophisticated one?
To my knowledge, there's just a concealed handgun license, and then it can either be for revolver or semi-automatic.
He was looking at all
Now,
sorts of certifications.
Now, if you have a Class 3 license, means that you can possess fully automatic weapons.
And that's probably what he was going for, yes.
So I'm not sure.
I'm not sure if he has it. I know he was looking at getting it.
Based on what I know at this point is that, and I mean at this point because we, are kind of early on in this, is that he was arrested and he was charged with two things at currently. One being the deadly conduct, which is discharging a weapon toward somebody, habitation, people in a reckless manner, which of course occurred. Also the aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, which is of course having a weapon and displaying it in a threatening manner, and possibly to the extent that somebody feels that
their life is threatened.
It's imminent injury could result, so that occurred. Furthermore, what we're working on now and it's got to go in front of a judge, is we're drawing up a third warrant for animal cruelty. So, and the Texas term is cruelty to a non-livestock animal, but it's animal cruelty. And that's also a felony charge for the death of Rusty in the manner that it occurred. And so that will be forthcoming as well. As far as taking possession of all the weapons out of his house, that's something that I'm not sure, without some consultation as well, where we would be on that, if that's going to be
We're looking into
legal or feasible. Right. The good and bad of it is we have all the constitutional protections, and one of those things is it's very difficult, one, to get into somebody's house, and secondary to seize from that house. So it's not a simple answer, and I don't want to tell you wrong. I certainly don't want to say we can do it or it'll happen or it won't happen. I just, as far as that goes, I don't know at this point. I do know that we are filing the third warrant for
which is another felony.
That's another. It's a state jail felony. Okay. For the animal cruelty, which is the killing of Rusty in the manner that it occurred. The other thing that's currently ongoing is that we're having an examination of Rusty as far as.
That's a good guy. I wanted to bring that up too when I could get him back.
Well, I don't have an exact time, but the examination is supposed to take place, and our evidence people are going down and all, sometime around 3:30, and it won't be a full autopsy, but what it will be, what we're looking for is, we already know the distance and things like that from being out there, but to kind of obtain any sort of evidence as far as any sort of round jacketing or anything like that, so I have some x-rays, the bullet path and trajectory, meaning, was Rusty standing this way or that way, and so what it basically does is gives us a 3D view of, we know where you guys were and where he was, and there was some blood spatter, but, gives us some direction. So after that takes place, I wouldn't see why y'all couldn't get Rusty back to do.
I just want to bury him.
Do what you need to or want to do. I can't give you an exact time, whether it would be this afternoon or first thing in the morning, but once that occurs, there'll be no reason for us to hold Rusty, and we would want y'all to be able to have whatever service or burial that y'all want. So we would, as soon as we know, we would call you and let you know when and where, to pick them up, or however y'all want to handle that.
And I wanted to throw this out there too, is that in terms of his temperament or his personality or his interaction, his socialization with dogs, with children, with people, you know, whatever you guys need in terms of interviewing either relatives, neighbors, practically everyone's met him. He's played with everybody's dog. And so if you need that, just for the record, you know, please feel free. I know there's a lot of people that will indulge that information and give you guys what you need.
Okay.
There's never been a record of him biting anybody. I mean, that clearly sums it up. So he, I don't know what much more I can say. I know that he's slept with babies in his bed, and I've got numerous friends that he plays with on a regular basis that has dogs, that, you know, there's never a confrontation or anything. I also want to point out that, you know, he was our baby. He was everything.
No.
You know, it's just hard to sleep. It's hard to eat right now.
Okay.
But anyway.
If I would imagine that they're going to require y'all to do it. It's not something that has to be done today or anything like that. But again, if we could get Rusty's records so we could compile, basically.
Just to prove that he was a VISLA or that he was a...
No, the blunt answer is, because what I would like to do is take all of his veterinary records and any sort of receipts that they have for all the annual exams and the shots and all of that stuff, and that way compile all that as to, I mean, look, I understand that, I mean, I have a dog too that I love dearly, and I, you know, that I wouldn't sell for $5,000 or $10,000, but
to try to put
there
some type of value
there is a
on his
value
life
associated with it, and I mean, and it's not to say, well, your dog's only worth this or it's worth that, but what I would like to do is have because it's not only a life that was taken and your pet and somebody that you cared for dearly, but there's a cost associated, and so when it's not part of, we have no say or anything in that in it, but I always like to include it, is that during the process of the trial or whatever occurs, there's restitution for a monetary amount of loss. So, and it won't bring Rusty back or anything like that, but nevertheless, it's there, and I like to include it.
Okay.
I mean, if you say you don't want me to include
No,
it, then I
no,
won't,
please,
but that's something
please.
that's
fine.
and that's why I would like to have those, so I can tally them all up for the 5 years or 4 years and 3 months, or so that's why.
I know there's some mental anguish and that sort of emotional loss too, because I know my wife, when she fell to the ground, I mean, she sustained, or she acquired injuries during the shooting, so you know, having the doctor's bills and all that too.
Yeah, and I believe the other detectives
they're going to take
some photographs, and you know, I don't know how they occurred, but I know that we've talked about that this morning and taken the follow-up photographs and things like that. Now, Sergeant Wukash, who's my boss, asked me to kind of talk to you about this, and I don't know if y'all have or haven't. For some reason, he thought maybe y'all have, but had consulted an attorney.
Yes, we do. I contacted my attorney today.
Okay.
So yes, I do have an attorney. If you need his information, I can give it to you.
I don't need his information, but well, I don't want to assume anything. Is that for some sort of civil suit?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And by all means, you're well within your rights to do that, and however that works, and that's where you would kind of deal with the pain and suffering and mental anguish and all of those things. The only thing that I would ask is that sometimes if that portion, the civil portion, occurs too soon, it kind of creates problems with a criminal prosecution.
Okay.
So I'm not saying don't do it, I'm just saying
Sure.
if you could please give us some time for all of this to kind of at least be done, put into motion on the criminal side of things. That way that doesn't, basically, it doesn't interfere with the criminal
Sure.
side.
Of course.
And in the process of the criminal side, and your attorney I'm sure will tell you this, it will either prove or disprove this other side. So, but as far as somebody, justice being served, I would just ask that, you know, and I'm not sure where you're at with that, but just.
Yeah, I just called him today. So.
You know, and that's fine. Just if you could please give us some time to make sure we get all of this through before that kind of jumps in.
How long do you anticipate, I guess, whether he has a plea deal or goes to court, goes to trial, or whether he's convicted or not?
I cannot put a time frame on it, but what I'll tell you, you know, he was initially charged with the deadly conduct and aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He was given a bond amount, and I guess,
$30,000.
and he's bonded out.
3,000, 10%.
Yeah. So he's out, and he was given probably, so he was magistrated and given some sort of probably a follow-up date or a first hearing type of thing where he'll either obtain an attorney or one will be provided for him. I don't know what agreements they were made or what he's told them. We're going to file the third charge, animal cruelty, which I explained to you, which at that point, since he's out, he'll either have to turn himself back in and post bond again.
Oh, for that third charge, or you're gonna go pick him up.
One of the, you know, it's going to work one of the two ways. We'll either pick him up, he'll turn himself in on the warrant once we get it signed, because that's again a third charge stemming from the same event.
So having probable cause to actually search his house for all of his weapons, maybe illegal weapons, I don't know, but you know, getting a warrant, that's just for his arrest. That's not going to be a search warrant.
It has nothing to do with the search warrant.
And
These are specifically for the arrest of him stemming from the offense of the incident on that night. To my knowledge, not being there, I know they tried to get, absent of a warrant, you have to have consent. A search warrant to go into somebody's house without their permission, you have to have a search warrant. Or you can get consent, and that was, he denied consent.
Oh, I know he did. I know he did.
But again, this will be for his arrest.
Sure.
On this third charge. Now, even though it came separate from the other ones, it's all from one event. So what will happen is all three charges will be stemming from the one offense. Bond. Oh, okay. Okay, thanks. All right. Now, once that happens, it's basically in the hands of the DA's office as far as what sort of, you know, if it goes to trial, if there's plea agreements and all of that, it's kind of, and so we don't really have a say in, you know, what will occur there. I don't want to lie to you or anything like that or tell you wrong.
But in terms of the next week, you're looking to pick him up on this third case.
Yeah, as far as I know, the paperwork should be done either today or tomorrow. So it
could be this week, picking him up on the third felony.
But to be honest with you, I would imagine that if he posted bond on these two, that he'll be able to post bond again.
I'm sure.
And at that point, to be honest with you, I've seen people go to trial 14, 15 months later. It's been quick. So
no, I know.
I can't say how quick it'll happen. Generally speaking, if plea agreements are reached, it occurs quicker than if they go to a full trial.
Right.
But I don't know. But as far as sometime in between there, I wouldn't know.
I got you.
Is there anything else you wanna add or tell me or want, you know? For
You know,
us?
I think in terms of safety and, you know, he doesn't have a wife, he doesn't have family that I'm aware of. His life was guns, and I think in terms of my safety, I'm just, for him to retaliate, I think is how, because, you know, he feels he's probably in the right, that he did nothing wrong, and therefore, being convicted of felonies, you can't own a gun at that time, can you?
That's correct.
So I guess I'm just concerned that he may retaliate in some form or fashion to, I mean, you hear people going off their rocker, I guess, or, you know, like the several shootings that we've seen lately. They're just mentally not stable, and I guess you know, I'm not moving. We love the neighborhood, we love the community, but at this time, I don't think anybody feels safe with him there, especially with his guns. So that's kind of where we're at. So, and I know there's probably not a whole lot you can do there.
Well,
what would have to happen for you to confiscate those weapons, besides being convicted of a felony?
Short of, once, you know, if that were to occur, then he would not be, I mean, it would be up to, he could sell them, he could have somebody else take them, but he couldn't be in possession of them.
Right.
If knowing what I know just right now, I don't see a way to get in and get them.
Okay. I was just a question.
Yeah.
I know that's a concern of the.
And it's a valid concern, and I would say that, you know, just be aware of your surroundings. You know,
if he comes on my property, I'm calling 911.
Sure, exactly. Don't open the door.
No.
Don't go outside. Just call 911. If it's a matter of, you know, depending on the situation, they might be able to issue a criminal trespass warning, some things like that. I'll check. They may have already set one up at a close patrol where officers come by every few hours and that sort of thing, and drive through and just kind of check on your house, or, you know, the kind of the neighborhood and area, see if anything is or isn't going on.
Sure.
So I'll check on that. If there's not one, I'll go ahead and initiate one.
If you could.
It lasts for 10 days, and then at which time, if it needs to be renewed, it can be, but for at least for the next 10 days, we'll do that. And that's where we're at right now. I think our victim services person is going to come down and meet with you guys.
Today?
I think so.
Because I know my mother was the director of the sexual assault program for the Attorney General for a long time, and I'm very familiar with crime victims calling and that sort of thing.
And so I think that's what she was going to meet with you about, if y'all don't want that to happen.
No,
you know,
I'd like to meet with them.
Okay.
I'm not sure if my wife is mentally able to do that right now.
Y'all
but no,
can make that
we
decision.
would like to speak with them, if not today, eventually. So.
Okay. I don't have anything else, so we can kind of go back and see where the other detective is with your wife.
Could I get another cup of coffee? Would that be okay?
And actually, I need to speak with our evidence people, because that call was was en route to the bed.
Was it a 9mm that he was shot with?
I believe so. I believe that it was a 9mm.
Do you know how many shots were actually fired?
I don't, and I don't yet.
Will we know that? Will that be public knowledge?
I mean, as long as they can tell us, I'll let you know if that's something that you want to know, whether it's 2 or 4 or what have you. It's my belief that it was a 9mm that he was in possession of, but as far as, unfortunately,